Welcome to direct objects versus indirect objects. First, let's define them. From our intermediate complements video, you know that direct objects are complements that come after an action verb. They are the objects that are being directly affected by the verb. I threw what? I dropped what? I ate what? Sometimes those objects involve not only the subject, the person or thing doing the verb, but maybe another person or object as well. That's the indirect object, the object being indirectly affected by the verb. Okay, so that sounds a bit confusing. Let's simplify it. If I throw a ball, I don't need anyone else around, I can just throw it. However, I could also have someone that I'm throwing the ball to. So if I'm throwing the ball, I'm the subject and the ball is my direct object. The ball is the thing that I'm directly throwing. If I add another person into the mix and I throw it to them, they are the indirect object. They are receiving the ball because I threw it to them. Let's check this sentence out. I threw the ball. Let's label my subject, verb, and direct object. Now let's add the indirect object, the person who I'm throwing the ball to. I threw him the ball. I'm not suddenly throwing him, I'm still throwing the ball. Just now, instead of me throwing it into empty space, I'm throwing it to a person. Him, my indirect object. The next thing you should know is where you can find them. Indirect objects usually come between the action verb and the direct object, or they'll come after the direct object in a prep phrase. Check this out. I paid the company money. Money is the direct object because it's what I paid, and the company is the indirect object because that's who I gave the money to. I could also write this sentence as, I paid money to the company. It still says the exact same thing. Money is still the direct object, and the company is still the indirect object. Let's try and find some. To find them, you just use the formula, subject, verb, direct object to whom or for whom. Let's use that on some examples. Try and find your direct object and indirect object. Pause here and check your answers afterwards. 1. I read my students a story. My verb is gave and my subject is I. To find my direct object, I asked subject, verb, what. I read what? I read students? No, that sounds weird. I read a story. Since I have a direct object, I might have an indirect object, so let's check. I read a story to whom? Students. So students is my indirect object. 2. You gave me a bad grade. You gave what? You gave me? No, you gave a grade. So grade is the direct object. You gave a grade to whom? Me, which makes me the indirect object. 3. My grandmother made some pies for us. My grandmother made what? Some tasty, tasty pies. So that's the direct object. My grandmother didn't make pies to anyone, but she made them for someone, for us. So us is the indirect object. 4. The gardener gave plants water. Gardener gave what? Water. So that's the direct object. Gardener gave water to what? Plants. So there's the indirect object. How'd you do? That's pretty much it. Here are the key things to remember about indirect objects. 1. You have to have a direct object in order to have an indirect object. 2. It's the only major sentence part that could be in a prep phrase. Subjects, verbs, direct objects, predicate nominatives, and predicate adjectives can't be. Only indirect objects. 3. They come between the action verb and the direct object, or after the action verb in a prep phrase that starts with to or for. 4. Indirect objects can be people or things. And 5. Just ask yourself subject, verb, direct object to whom or for whom. Thanks for watching. As always, I hope this was helpful. Be sure to let me know if you have any other grammar questions that you need explained.
Created using Powtoon.